What's good, folks? RgL here with you, hanging out with another one of my badass friends, Eric Moreno. Eric, how you doing, brother?
Good, brother. How's it going?
Good to see you. Hanging out in the sedan. Want to bring you another one of my conversation series episodes, RgL Sedan Sessions, a conversation series that I have kicked off because I'm a part of, and I'm sure like you've noticed, we know a whole lot of badass people. We know a whole lot of people doing a whole lot of music things, a lot of creative things. We're in circles where we get to collaborate and create with, and then also hear some amazing stories. And I have with you shared a whole lot. You've shared a whole lot with me, and I want to kind of peel the curtain back a little bit. That's kind of the point of the sedan sessions, this conversation series, is to kind of find out, hey, what's the journey been like? How you been? What are you working on? How do we get here? How did you and I sort of get connected? Because what I'm finding out already in just a few of the episodes, and this is the third episode, so thank you very much for joining me on it, is that there's so much overlap in the city, in our journey. And how's it been? What have you been up to?
Well, as you know, I've been doing my native Texan two-step dance lessons. I do
native Texan fame, that is. So tell me, what is native Texan?
So native Texan to me is like, I get asked all the time. Obviously, I have these braids and oh, are you like native?
Right.
And I'm like
Native American.
Right.
People assume.
Yeah. So I'm like, so it was kind of this journey of like, okay.
And are you?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was part of the journey. So it was. My answer was always native to South Texas. And like my family, my mom's mom, like just keeps going of like long time.
Where is that? What part of South Texas?
So it's near Orange Grove. So I grew up in Corpus Christi.
Corpitos.
Yeah, I was
Corpitos. I'm from Victoria, so there's also there again.
Yeah,
you get a lot of similar coastal background. Right. I love it.
Yeah. So kind of grew up and going to the outskirts of town and like Orange Grove. So I grew up in the kind of like outskirts of Corpus, just at the edge of the city, and then like would go every weekend to my my grandma's house out on the ranch and just. So anyway, that's like my answer was always like native, and I was kind of like afraid to be like native, like because what you think is like you want me to say Cherokee or something like that. I'm like, well, it's not. I'm not gonna say that. So like native to South Texas, but a gift to myself that I made this like last September was like birthday of like I want to find out my heritage more, and so I did like the 23andMe.
Okay, so you did one of the official.
And then I did Ancestry and like went down this rabbit hole, and so that's kind of been a cool thing to connect my brother. And it's like
what did you find out?
What did you find out? It's like almost 50%, like 50% Spanish. Which is like light
skin
I think for me.
I think that's the story also of a lot of us
here.
I mean, that's how we got to whether it's Mexican, Mexica, the Aztec, the Mayan, and then all of the many tributaries that are Latino, Latinx, Hispanic, Chicano, Chicanismo. Okay, so that's amazing. So so 50% Spanish.
Yeah, 50% like
which I think is the story, like you said.
Coahuiltecan.
Okay.
And I'm still unsure of like there's different pronunciations of this. Exactly. It's like still things that I'm learning, but it's basically
so don't chime in. We're learning. We're figuring this all out.
We're learning together.
Exactly.
So part of it's South Texas and like South South and Southwest Texas, and then into northern Mexico, which I do know. Like my dad's family is from Monterrey, and and so like it's kind of cool to just go down this path of like figuring that out. So that's kind of like
when was this that you did that journey that started?
So I mean, I started the idea of like native Texan and being a few years ago. I started teaching in 2020 and started really like coming out in like 2022 of like pandemic's done. Let's get it.
Now you say teaching. Now I know. Now we haven't really dove into. So Native Texan is the brand that you're growing and building. What are you teaching? What do you?
So I teach two-step dance lessons. So country two-step. It's like
because that's how we met. That's how you and I connected. And I don't remember whether it was on the Conjunto side or the Honky Tonks side. But we've pulled up RgL Sedan sessions. We pulled up to Busty's. The new the bar, right? Absolutely, his bar new. I haven't been. This is exciting to get in, but we met Busty as well through the White Horse. Is where we still do a whole lot of dancing. You are doing a whole lot more of dancing than I have been here lately. So how did the lessons get started? What tell me about that launch?
Well, so I started helping my brother with his stuff. He was a dance instructor. He still is now.
Shout out Jaime.
Come back, yeah, Jaime. And so, you know, we had been musicians together for a long time. He was always like, man, there's really great musicians. And honestly, I was like, I liked the 90s, like classic George Strait, and I wasn't really sure. So when I thought like the country was like pop country. Sorry.
Yeah. That bro country
stuff.
Like,
my dog and my pickup truck and American beer, you know, and it's like, I did not identify with any of that. But my brother was like, man, there's really good musicians. I go out there, he's such a smooth dancer, and I'm like, okay, like, this interests me.
So did you grow up dancing? Did y'all grow up dancing or doing anything?
My parents did. They went to all, like, George Strait concerts, Reba McEntire, and then also, like, the conjunto and cumbia and all that.
But how about you?
I was always a rocker dude. I want to have nothing. Musician.
Okay.
Didn't want to have anything to do with actual, like, any of the, like, dance stuff. I just, like, wasn't interested.
Sure.
So then, you know, a few years ago, you know, probably 8-9 years ago is when I started dancing. Then my brother started doing some leatherwork stuff and kind of stopped, and people were asking me like, hey, do you teach? And I'm like, so I hit my brother like, hey, are you not teaching anymore? Do you mind if I pick up something? He's like, yeah, dude, do whatever. So so that's kind of how it started, and it was just like a side gig, and then I got laid off of my job like right at the beginning of the pandemic. And so that was more of like, okay, well, like
we're gonna do this.
Yeah, I worked at this job for like 15 years, and they kind of laid me off, and I thought I was gonna like own this company, and so kind of like total change of pace. But like, so then I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna build something.
Was that difficult? I mean, obviously that's a challenge.
Yeah,
obviously that's a challenge, and a lot of people are going through similar. But what was it hard to kind of dig your heels in and go, all right, we're gonna do this, or was there a scramble to find the next paycheck?
I mean, yeah, actually, it was just like, it was a lot of my life, honestly, was kind of crumbling, if you will. I had this major change, like, you know, job of 15 years. My mom, who now passed away during this time period, was going through some like early Alzheimer's dementia stuff. And so that was all like trying to fund and take care of here during the middle of the pandemic and schedule all these things. Like, her care was like, it was just a wild time. And so trying to be like, well, okay, well, can I do some online dance lessons in the meantime to make some extra cash? Or, you know, so
I'm sure you learned a lot about a lot.
Yeah.
Throughout that whole process. One thing that I learned, and then I'm loving digging into the series, so RgL SEDAN Sessions conversation series that I have chosen to launch to highlight the journey of folks, the fascinating folks that we're connected to, and that I've been lucky enough to call friends. And I do consider you a very, very good, close friend, brother, hermano, from another vato, hermano from another vato. But you know, it's one of the things that I saw in one of my other worlds. So I am working banking in a different capacity and haven't for many years. But I saw a lot of clients who dealt with similar situations, had to then deal with estates, had to deal with beneficiary type info. It's like, what? They don't teach us that.
Yeah.
They don't teach us that as a culture, as a kid. It's like, hey, Mijo, the adults are talking. You go over there, go play, go do whatever.
Yeah.
So kudos. I mean, obviously, you and your family and your brother and I, you know, I empathize. You know, thank you, kudos to y'all for making it through it. And so dancing, I'm sure, is cathartic as hell.
Yeah.
To get through something like that. So not only are you doing it for social, for just fun, but you're able to make a living, make an earning doing it. How fun is it? Kind of surreal? Is it kind of like, this is what I get to do?
This is what I do. I do every day. I don't have another full-time job. I teach dance lessons. I do like events and stuff, and like that's what I do. And it's
you've even done corporate events. You've done like festival concert type things.
And I used to crawl in attics like for HVAC, you know. So
so that was the career before. What were you? HVAC, huh?
So I started, when I first moved to Austin, like 2004, started with this company, and I like was a delivery driver and worked in the warehouse, and then I worked my way up, and then so it's for this HVAC company.
Sure.
And then was like a purchasing manager and doing operations and this kind of stuff. So
you think it's just moving? You think it's just moving? Like, hey, this will be what?
I guess I'm going to own this company, and then not. So part of it is like I've always been able to like just like, well, I'm gonna go do this way and like pick up the pieces and keep going. So it was never my intention like to be a dancer, never my intention to be a dance instructor. And then but it's like it just kind of makes sense. Like with my music background, my brother and I used to play music. I booked all the shows. I was basically like tour manager and all that. So that helped me like with my events, I can
Sure.
like I hire bands, I do this stuff, so it like stays connected. It's all in the same.
Yeah,
world,
the event space, whether in whatever way, like there's always that. There's a formula to it. There's one of the things that I'm also identifying as we're getting into these conversations, episode over episode, is the game. Whether it's life, creativity, all of that doesn't change much.
Right.
The pieces do, the elements do, and it's as long as you can manipulate and pre-produce that, do the thing, post-produce, do whatever it is you need to do. That's awesome. So remind me, you guys grew up near the coast.
Yep.
And what was the journey? How'd you get to Austin? What brought you this way?
So, like I said, we were musicians. I was a musician. My brother, both my older brothers, they lived in Austin.
Okay.
That necessarily wasn't the thing for me. Sure. I just like.
Did you have an idea where you wanted to go, or was there any?
It was Austin because, like, you know, I wrote a bunch of music. I played with our band, and back home was like getting some momentum, and like, well, like there's only so much in Corpus, right? So it's like Austin's the next.
What years was this?
So this was 2004. So
okay,
as soon as I graduated high school, I worked a summer in the oil field stuff, and then that was like an option of like live that oil.
You want to do this?
Yeah, and I could see where that was, and that was definitely not where I wanted to be. So like now I'm gonna go pursue like music and see what happens. So I come to school, and then but mainly it was like to focus on music and just like do the thing, you know.
Okay. Do you still play at all?
Yeah, I still play a little bit.
What do you play? What do you?
So I play guitar mostly, but I dabble in a few other instruments. Drum, it's all by ear. So like
sure.
Drums, keys, like bass. I've messed around a little bit on accordion.
Yeah. I have one that I've been trying to learn for years. I've always lived in a condo or apartment area, a shared wall, so you don't want to be rattling too much on that. But no, I feel you. I'm just kind of playing around.
Yeah. So
knowing the rhythm,
but like guitar has been my main instrument, and so yeah, just recently now it's like I have a buddy that we're supposed to record next weekend. Rocky, who's also really talented. He plays in Bitty Bitty Banda. He's the bass player.
Okay.
And he plays like all kinds of stuff, and he's a wonderful dancer. And so anyway, I'm helping him record some stuff, a couple of his singles, and so that's like country honky tonk stuff. Sure. So I'm kind of new to playing music in that realm, but like I'm like, I'll
have you gigged yet?
No, not yet. No, we just had like a rehearsal, and we're kind of just been writing separately, and so like then like here, you like what I'm writing, and then we're gonna go into the studio. So this is like his 2 singles coming out. Yeah.
And so with dancing being what you do, what you're building, Native Texan, again, remind us, what is it again? It's Native. How do people find you for lessons and for
on Instagram, Native Texan 2 Step. I'm in the middle of branding right now, and so you'll have all kinds of dance videos and this kind of stuff, and then also like that's where people hit me up for lessons, and then from there we'll schedule, and I do everything at my home studio, or I do like events out.
So that was going to ask, what's the office? Is there a studio? Obviously you gotta get out to the Honky Tonk. You gotta get out to the White Horses and the Broken Spokes and the Jennies. And where are you doing the lesson, and where are you showing the lesson off?
Well, I've kind of done a little bit of a different thing, and it's been working out. Yeah. So mostly I've been like really hyper focused on. I decided like I am a bit of also an introvert. I enjoy I have extroverted tendencies for sure.
Also is a theme that I'm noticing, right? Is that a lot of us that are doing this thing, we're like, yeah, let's go do, but we need to recharge.
Oh yeah,
you need to come back. It's like, nah, I want to do it all the time.
Right. I need my alone time. So I do this out of my home studio. My private lessons are like I converted my garage into a studio, so it's like legit dance studio. And then from there it was kind of like, well, maybe I should go out and like pick up clients and or do a residency, because that's kind of the norm. But honestly, it was just like, that's like a lot of energy, and I think I could do it in a different way. Okay. So I've chosen to not and really invest in like my students. And so I think there's kind of some buzz around like a lot of the students that I'm pumping out.
So word of mouth. Word of mouth,
it's all my business right now is word of mouth. They usually now I don't even really go out a whole lot as much, because I don't want to hate dancing, like your job. This is like, it's a thing. In my private lessons, there's a lot of energy going into like, how do I,
you don't want it to turn it, yes, it's your job, but you don't want to turn it into work.
Right. Yeah.
I've noticed that in several of the creative pursuits that I've had, and that's one of the reasons why I'm excited about getting something like this launched. Again, RgL Sedan Sessions. There's interviews and invitations to some of the most fascinating friends into the sedan, because it's kind of a safe space. You know, everybody's driving around. You're in your own little world. Peel the curtain back, though, and share bits and pieces of the story. But one of the things that I knew this was going to be something that could potentially take off, or someone would find interesting, is that it is fun.
Right.
And it doesn't feel like work. Now, I've dabbled in photography. I've dabbled some with others in filmmaking and other things like that. And there are certain times when the gig becomes so task oriented, and you're just like, oh my, we got to do this again. So I get it. I get entirely what you're saying, where you don't want to hate the thing. Yeah. And I'm sure it takes a lot of the pressure off your students as well. Yeah. To be with just you, the instructor, their partner, or if it's one-on-one. Yeah. So how do you structure the lessons? What is it? Are there different levels of dancing? Because now again, to go all the way back again, we met at just simply going to shows. Right. And we've become friends with a whole lot of the musicians there. I'm excited. Soon I'm going to be having Rosie from Rosie and the Ramblers. Sweet. So Selena Rosenbaum, I'll be having her in the sedan as well. And I know a lot of Mayum Broussard are friends as well. And I know you follow them a whole lot. Yeah. Did you go to the Silverado show last night? Oh my God, no.
Not Silverado. Okay. I was worn out, but last weekend.
Formerly Mike and the Moon Pies. Amazing. Again, now I wasn't a part of the White Horse origin story in that sense, but kind of close to it, 2-3 levels back. And I think that was around the time, well, you'd been in town already for years since then. Yeah. But just kind of the overlap of figuring out, well, Dirty Six isn't where we want to be. West Six isn't our thing. We're not rainy folks. You know, and so I rediscovered dancing because of the conjunto nights at the White Horse. They would do Sunday conjuntos, and shout out to Dennis, who would, and Marshall, and Nate, of course, but Dennis and Marshall would host those Sunday afternoons. And I don't know if you remember those or did those much, where they would barbecue. They would grill outside, legs and thighs, leg quarters, man. It was exactly like the tariadas, and that's what we called them. It was exactly like your grandpa and your tios and everybody would do after church on Sundays. You're going to the grandma's house, and you're going to throw everything on the grill. The music's going to be on, and you're going to hang. You're going to have a good time. And so that, for me, came at a really, really important time, where I was kind of trying to figure out, who am I here in Austin? Because Austin's a phenomenal place that they'll let you do and be whoever you want to do and be. Yeah. Well, I did not do that. That's a weird way. but be whoever you want to be. Yeah. But there's a lot of that going on, like to carve out your own physics. So have you found it? How has that been for you to carve out that identity, that brand? Because there's a lot of dancing. There's a lot of things that go on out in the world, in just that world.
I mean, as I said before, like whenever I was starting to like develop my idea, like actually took a lot of time, and like even with the name, and it was like, look, I'm Latino man, you know, like I'm like, I don't, whenever visitors, you know, like not from Texas, right? Like, what does a Texan look like? They're expecting like what I imagine.
Us. Yeah. They don't expect us.
Like, you know, just
at least not all the time.
College Station, you know, or Lubbock, Texas, the white cowboy, and so like I really developed.
And to be fair, I mean, there's a lot of good folks. There's a lot of in the best sense, good old boys, and I mean that in a good way, not in the bad. I know a lot of them. We know a lot of them. They're good, but that's not how we grew up,
right? And so we grew up on the ranch in South Texas, and part of that is like and I get that I've always got that, you know, even before I started wearing my braids like this, you know, it was kind of like, ooh, like. But where are you from? Like, where are you from?
Yeah. And, oh my God.
Yeah, and so I'm like, my family's been here for a very, very long time. Yep. And so whenever I was doing my like brand discovery, you know, like I said, I've been working on like my branding stuff. Part of that was like I really dug deep into like the culture, like what am I trying to do? And part of it was like, it started bothering me a little bit of like, this is like even like in this two-stepping community, not until like more recent years, it's been kind of like, there's not a whole lot of people of color, you know, and so part of that is like, I think it's nice to diversify, and then to be all like, you know, like I'm not playing cowboy, like I'm not the traditional what you would think, but like I I wear boots, but they're not cowboy boots. They're other type of boots. And
Sure.
so it's like, it's just different.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we resonated as well early on, is because at that same time, around the time that I'm sure we were both discovering White Horse, Broken and Spoke in town when it was coming up, because I absolutely enjoy dancing, and I've thankfully been a part of some of the other organizations and folks in our circle who do lessons in some of the more structured ways, and they've invited me to help and participate. I think even your brother has helped. I've helped, and both of you, in fact. I think there have been events, and so that's one of the things. It's a community. It's a dancing community. But one of the things I noticed early on too is like, hey, there's not a lot of folks that look like me out there, and I'm a big guy, and so there's not a lot of that as well. So to be able to go, and so I have a ballet folklorico background. I grew up in Victoria, Texas, about 30-40 minutes from the coast. And I thank my folks for putting me in that, because it gave me an appreciation and an understanding for the music of it, which I'm sure as a musician you have, and obviously, but that's where I say, like, moved up to Austin. Kind of didn't know where that existed, because it was everywhere in Victoria in the 80s and 90s. I'm an 80s and 90s kid, and it was everywhere. I mean, there were Tejano bands coming to town every weekend. We were going, and the folklorico, we would all go together. And so that's where I learned the couples style of dancing, and that's why when in the early 2000s when I moved to town, of course, let's go to 6th Street, let's go dancing. That wasn't dancing for me. I'm like, okay, cool, bump and grind and doing all this stuff.
Hell yeah.
I mean, that was great. That's what I grew up. But you know what I'm saying? Dancing for me was like, let's do this formal thing. And so even now, like, there are certain folklorical elements, and shout out to all of those folks that were in that with me, because you carry it. You carry all of that in. And so I think that's a lot of why you are building the brand that you're building, to infuse your elements.
Right. So part of, like I said, doing some, like, I do things deeply and with intention. And so part of that is, like I said, even with the name, and like what I'm doing is like, I invest in my students. I invest in like understanding the culture of this stuff. Where did it come from? And, and part of that is like, even just like the cowboy culture, right? It's like vaqueros, they were black and brown people. And so like, it gave me a deeper sense of like, I'm going to ruffle some feathers, because like going out into like some of these like small, like Austin community is wonderful.
Sure.
Go outside 30 minutes.
What you're about to say.
Right. Go outside 30 minutes and it dance halls and it changes, right? It's like, and so even, like some of my friends don't necessarily witness that, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm not as into it.
What has happened? What have you? Because so there's been, I mean, we don't want to go too deep into the rabbit hole. I understand, but no, I've almost gotten in fights just because I had to say no to somebody because I'd been dancing too long. I wanted to take a break.
Right.
They took it as a slight. Right. And we're like, no, how dare you, whatever. And then their boyfriend or husband comes up and wants to say something about it. I'm going, well, hey, what? But I don't know why. Like, what if I can guess why, but
well, yeah. So I think I've encountered a lot of like, it's kind of like these a lot of smaller instances that add up into it's enough of this. And so part of it is like, generally speaking, Texas is amazing. And there's a lot of people that are just like really friendly.
Right.
And then there's also the like rotten apple it's like, and I do happen to find the rotten apples or they find me, because it's like, I think part of it is like brushing up against of like, oh, okay, like I think we're wonderful dancers, right? And so we stick out a little bit on top of like how we dress.
There's a little bit of jealousy. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Let's call it, and this isn't the ego speaking at all. But yeah, no, folks want to, but also on the flip side of it, there's been interesting compliments. I was a part of one. I remember at at one of the Conjunto nights, I won't call them a motorcycle club. A motorcycle club showed up. And they were there. Obviously, you knew they were there. And one of their old ladies. Right. One of their old ladies came up and asked me to dance, and I didn't know that at the time. Yeah. But obviously, I mean, you could tell that they had just come off of a motorcycle. Right. And we're dancing, we're having a great time, because again, it's something that you could tell that was familiar to her, it was familiar to me, and one of the compliments I've enjoyed getting is that I'm smiling, and I know I see a lot of us. It's happy, it's cathartic, it's a great release of things. Oh, you're smiling so big, and so we were having a blast, and I could tell that the motorcycle club was watching. Yeah. And we finished, I think we did 2 in a row, which also is like, hey, you don't really do that with strangers all the time. At certain clubs. Yeah. At certain clubs. And the dude walked up and was like, hey, man, thanks for dancing with my old lady, because I don't really know how. And it was really nice to kind of see her have a good time.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, and I bet it's moments like that that come to, because I've been asked, hey,
Right.
can you teach me? Can you?
Right.
And I don't have the patience. So
Right.
kudos to you for doing the
Come
lessons.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm sure, is that how it happens out in the field? If
Yeah,
you will,
I think it's different. So I have like a spectrum of like, so as an example, some of the more negative ones are like, you know, my friends and I, like one of the small dance halls, just not too far outside of town. Um, you know, like my friends and I are hanging out. I'm like I'm leaning against a picnic table that's
Sure.
inside.
Okay.
And next to me I have a person that is not brown like me sitting on the tabletop, and one of the guys that was like kind of running the thing, he starts like saying something, and I can't, I always wear earplugs as a musician and dancer. Listen to live music.
Ears.
Anyway, so I couldn't really hear him, but I'm like so connected. I felt tone. I knew exactly what was about to happen. And so anyway, he was like, so I was like, sorry, excuse me, I couldn't hear you. And he's like, he told me like, hey, he just said, this isn't your mom's house or something. Like, he said something really weird and like obscure that was like, this isn't your mom's place. Like, get off the table.
Meanwhile, someone is sitting on
somebody next to me is
the table, and you're literally just leaning.
Right, I'm leaning against it, and he's like, and I think he called me boy or something, and so that's like, I'm like, yes, I have very boyish, handsome young looks. I'm not gonna, but I'm a 38-year-old man,
but still, no.
But what I'm saying is like, I already knew where that was gonna go. I already felt it, and then it was kind of interesting to then see like I had spoke about this leading up to this, of like, this happens, like I'm kind of like, I want to see my friends' bands play at these places, and sometimes I like get annoyed, and so it was kind of interesting to then see like, I totally saw that was BS of like what happened, like, I'm so sorry, and I'm like, brush it off, it's like, this isn't the first time, it's not the last time it's gonna happen,
right?
So part of that is like,
and this is modern times. This is not something that happened.
This was less than a year ago, and
that unfortunately I'm noticing is a theme. The guests that I've had so far, we've all been are people of color, and again, that's a rabbit hole and a whole other podcast, a whole other thing to go down. But there are so many nuances. There are so many things that go into being that in Texas.
Right. And so part of what I'm saying is like, that's like the one bad apple. And I don't think of like, no, there's a bunch of racists over here.
Sure.
The idea is like, I encounter that, and that's going to continue to happen. But part of that is like, no, I'm trying to like shake stuff up and have it more of a welcoming environment for more people like this to be part of this. And I think, I've had a lot more of the other side, which is like, I'm thinking like, it's kind of funny, like going to some of these other dance halls. It's kind of like walking with the Austin crew, tatted up and look alternative, right?
Sure.
And then it's like record scratch and like, and then like everybody's looking, like, you're not from around here kind of deal. But usually what happens is like, there's definitely like eyes on you, and
it's I don't want to say alarming. It's whoa, hey, it's out of the ordinary.
This is different.
It's out of the ordinary. It's like, okay. And then once they see us having a good time.
Totally.
And that's why we're there.
Right.
To just have a good time.
We're all there for the same reason.
Right, exactly. And then it goes, I know what you're exactly saying, where it'll go one of two ways whenever they see, shameless plug, that we're good.
Yeah.
They're either going to embrace it.
Yeah.
Or they're going to get embarrassed. They're going to, and it's fun. It's so much fun. Because for the longest time in the junior high and high school era, well, then one for me there where I grew up, dancing wasn't this way. It existed.
Yeah.
I wasn't a part of it. And so very much wallflower then, except for within the, folklorical circles where you can feel safe in your culture, in your circle, in your sphere. What's next for Native Texan? What's around the corner? You still establishing the brand, building?
Yeah. Still doing stuff like that. I just finished up a series. Like I said, part of it is kind of shaking some stuff up and ruffling some feathers. I'm down to do that.
Yeah.
So
what are
part
you
of
working
it,
on? What are you
I just
shaking up?
finished right now, like I did this series called Switchy Woman, which was for women and follows, and it was a queer community that was like for people that want to like lead. And so I did a 4-part series of that at a friend's venue, Shady Springs, which like I have other things coming up there, like my brand launch party, hopefully in September. Yeah, so like part of that is like I see like some of the what's going on in the dance world is kind of like got some like people that identify as men, you know, that are like feel like they are I don't know, using follows as props and tools, and they're there for because I choose you and you're, and so I've seen that vibe for sure. And so part of this was like, hey, like let's kind of like challenge that culture around that and saying like, you have choice, right? And so like if you have better choices, then you're not going to put up with some of the stuff, and then like you either learn and adapt and grow and be like, hey, we're up here now, we've raised the bar, or you get left behind, or you're just unhappy and we're making you uncomfortable now. So that was my series.
Shifting the culture, the dance culture.
Totally.
I
So
like
that was like super fun, and it was great to see. Like I'd never done a series like that, and just for like the past year, people had been asking like, hey, when are you going to put on this type of series? And so finally I was just like, yeah, I'm the person to do this. So like, you know, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm the boss. I need to, like, absolutely. I guess I'm going to do that now. So
that's another one of the motivators is getting out of your own way. That's kind of one of the things that I'm excited about, finally getting this thing launched. RgL Sedan Sessions Conversation Series, where we hang out in the Chevy Impala sedan, and there's a whole backstory around that, and we'll get into it maybe one of the episodes. But yeah, bringing in and highlighting what people's journeys and digging into the why are you doing, and so obviously shaking it up. Disruptive chaos, that's a term that I've heard in the corporate world. So obviously in different ways, like I mentioned, I've been in banking, but there are several departments in a lot of banks in different corporate worlds that are called that. They're disruptive chaos departments, or disruptive chaos technology. Because you got to rattle the boat a little bit. My grandfather used to say, along the lines of our fashion sense and our whatever, because when we show up, because we know, I mean, folks are going to look at us. And that's one of the things that one of my grandfather said is, Mijo, if folks are going to look at you, give them something to look at. And I use that in the best sense, because in the Chicano, Hispanic, and in the Black community, there's a phrase, style as resistance. Comes from the Pachuco movement, Zoot Suit riots, where, no, you can't wear those suits. No, you're not supposed to be wearing those fabrics. Why? Why not? And I think that's obviously kind of what you touched on. Why are you wearing those Wranglers? Why are you wearing that curl snap? Why are you? That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely, because I can. That's why. But then also, it's a nod to I think and feel for me growing up where we did in that Texas, Southeast Texas specifically, because Texas is so huge. And El Paso is not Laredo, is not Amarillo, is not Abilene, all of that stuff. But specifically, I have felt, for me, growing up in Victoria, and Corpus isn't that far. And you said you were outside. What was the exact where?
So, Orange Grove, Alice area.
Okay. Alice. Absolutely.
That's where I was born.
Oh my gosh. That's a mix of a whole bunch of cultures, Texan cultures that are Latin, Hispanic, Chicano, Mexican, German, Polish, Czech, and even Asian communities. There's shrimpers, the fishing boats. There's a whole swath. But then one of the things that I identified early on, because my grandfather and uncle were business owners, floor covering, the Vasquez floor service, was that everybody's there to work. Everybody's there to work and just make a living. And I'm gonna do right by you. You do right by me. That's one of the things that I do miss about that part of growing up then. Of course, we didn't know what we didn't know. And I'm sure there were parts of the state and the city that we didn't go to that I just didn't know about then. But that's the beautiful thing that I think informed how I came up. And obviously being down in that area it's just a working culture and community. And I think that's what surprises me sometimes when we get some of whether it's animosity or adversity. It's like, I'm just out to dance. I just wanted to have a good time. So when does if it does get challenging,
Mm.
or you feel like it's turned into work, how do you release? What do you do to, what's cathartic for you? I know you tried to go to Barton Springs today.
Yeah, no, I'm just
It's summer in Austin.
I mean, honestly, like I like being in nature a lot. You know, that's something I'm still discovering. Like going down a deeper rabbit hole. So I like I'll brush the topic. Maybe it opens up something for. But like honestly, like you know, like as coming from Latino man, coming from where we came from, my experience is like don't talk about feelings, don't talk about emotions, right? You're just a tough mofo, you know.
Go to work. What do you? In your board? I'll give you a book.
Yeah. So there was not a lot of opportunity for that. So honestly, I had been so detached from like that and how to, you know, it wasn't until like you know I was really like pinned against the wall with the stuff that happened with my mom that was like a traumatic experience to then be like start shine a light and just kind of like okay, let's like go to therapy and like do the work, right? So like so part of that is like you know I used to like box, and so it was kind of funny, like my brother and I used to be in like metalcore screamo band back in the day.
I didn't know that.
And then I used to be like a boxer, trained to be an amateur fighter, and I trained people for a while. And so I just now recently made the connection that like that was like during my earlier like young 20s and like late teens, and it was like everybody's been like, oh yeah, like Eric's such like a friendly dude. And I am, but I had so much anger, you know, and I didn't even know. It was like, so I let it out through like this really heavy music and through boxing and like physically, like just like, I mean, yeah, I played soccer and I was always
a blessing, whether you knew it or not. Then
I needed it. It was like an outlet.
Otherwise, so, you'd probably been getting in trouble,
right? I mean, I had these like little, you know, I'm a small dude, but like, and so just kind of funny of like, I saw this shirt. I was vintage shopping the other day, and it said Chiquito pero Picoso.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, that is me.
Chili pepper, boy.
Yeah, like small but spicy. Hell yeah. So, you know, and so that's why
should be native Texan. Small but spicy. No.
So that's what you know, like I've always kind of had that attitude of like, yeah, I'm small, but like I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna do this thing. So part of that is like now to answer your question around like what do I do now? Well, like sometimes it's like I'm going the other way, right? It's like sometimes it's like having some time to just like reflect and just be like quiet and like feel my emotions in a way. And so that's like super new, and I'm like learning that stuff, you know.
That too. That's again one of the reasons why I want to kind of highlight and focus on people's journeys that way is because we're all learning something. I think you've got to be, or you're dead. You know, that's what they say. So that kind of dovetails a little bit into a couple of the questions that I've been asking the folks that hop in the sedan, and we'll wrap up here in just a bit because I haven't been into Busty's yet. Again, we pulled up RgL SEDAN sessions. Busty's, again, a bartender out of the White Horse family and era, and others, I'm sure. And that's what's cool is in that family, and like I said, a lot of those folks have become friends to us in many shapes or form. But there have been several businesses that have come out of that, several bands that have come out of it, you're a business that has come out of that community as well. If not, well, we'll get to that one in a second. Let's peel the curtain back just a little bit. And you've highlighted a few things that most people, and that I'm surprised at, or maybe didn't know. What is the biggest either misconception or the biggest sort of confusing bit, or that people just are surprised to find out about you, or that you wish, like, man, when they meet me, I want them to know this thing?
I mean, it's usually like, I knew he was good looking, but I didn't know he was that good looking. It's like when he takes off his glasses.
He's a
like,
humble guy. That's why we're all very modest, my friends.
Kidding. No, I mean, I think part of like legitimately, I'm pretty playful. So playful, and then also like humble and grounded in that like I am quite intentional about the things I do. When I want to know something, I want to know it deeply. I want to understand it. It's not just like, why do we do this? Well, because just because. Like, okay, cool. And I learned the skill. It's like, why? How does it work? What are the problems with it? So I think that's like when people come in, especially like for my private lessons. I mean, it's kind of this like funny thing. It's not me that created this, but it's like a cool thing that happened. It's just like, yeah, I've been quite busy just through word of mouth. And so like, you don't see me out dancing as much as it used to like several years ago. Right. And so it's kind of like, you know, I had like an e-business card and people share that. And so like, I have like, when I go out, people recognize like obviously the braids. Right. And so then they'll be like, oh, hey, you must be Eric. Right. And I'm pretty quiet, you know, and just like, yeah, cool. And I'll talk to him like, hey, thanks for coming to say hi and stuff. And so it's just kind of interesting.
That's
cool. It's like, I've heard people refer to like, it's like a Godfather thing, like kiss the ring. It's like what one of my students said. I'm like, not that at all.
There he is.
But I'm not going to like say that I don't enjoy that sometimes.
No, absolutely.
You know?
Come on.
But it's kind of just like a fun, nice thing is like, because if you come and talk to me, like within a few minutes, you'll understand like, look, I'm come from humble beginnings. Like I'm genuine and I don't want to have just like, so what do you do for work? If work isn't important to you, then like what's challenging you right now? What are you excited about, right?
Drive? What's your passion?
So I think people find that out pretty quickly. Like there is this kind of quiet, mysterious vibe and thinking that I might be like, you know, like
a different way,
and maybe not as like grounded and as friendly. And part of it is like, yeah, like we are helping each other. This is you know, like this is community. So part of it is like people come to me or supporting my business. Like I'm like, I want to help people feel more confident and feel good about themselves, and that's why we're learning to connect, right? Like that's why we go into that scene. So
to share, a lot of it for me is it's kind of how we came up. I mean, family. I mean, it was always communal. I mean, there's a lot of traumas and stuff too,
right.
but in that community sense, like go, you know, if you're gonna go to the function or the thing or whatever it is, go enjoy, be a part of it, go say hello to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. What if not what you're doing now? Obviously you've made the best out of situations that kind of pushed you in certain ways. But if not Austin, if not any of the journeys, what would you want to do or be doing or would you have done?
I want to be happy, brother. That's it. No, I think part of that is like, I used to have pretty strict like this is where I want to be and have like end goal is what mattered to me, and the journey along the way was like stuff that I had to just put up with, and it sucked, and like just had to put up with it because like I want the end goal, final product. And what I've since opened up is like, man, like part of this is like something. There's always something. Like this is already morphed into like this was like a side gig and turned into something else, and I'm looking to do more events of like it would be nice to have like Native Texan is the brand, right? So like not just dance lessons, but like what would it be like to like go on a ranch in South Texas and have the barbecue and barbacoa and all this other stuff that we had, and like, you know, there's hunting and fishing and all this stuff that I grew up with. That like I think that's another thing of like they see like, oh, this is like a city boy, and it's like I grew up on the ranch too on the weekend, so I got both, you know.
Oh wow, nice.
So I think it's kind of like being like I think it's like I said, legit being happy. And so part of that is like being myself. So that is like, there is like sometimes that I'm quiet and quite thoughtful and pensive. And there's other times that are like, I say a bunch of dad jokes and I just like goof around, you know, and that's also part of me. And I think that's,
if I remember correctly, are you good with puns?
Yeah, hell yeah.
I'm not. No, we're not going to start that. I'm not. Right, I don't know. No.
Yeah, get my brother.
That's what I thought. You and your brother, yes. And I'm jealous. I'm so jealous of that because I mean, God, you got to be so quick with that. No, I think obviously because again, we us, but also in a lot of us. I mean, we're sort of the I don't want to say pinnacle, but we're all our own brand, our own identity. We all are very, very formidable people in whether it's the dance community and the business community. And so I absolutely enjoy that you're carving out your niche, creating that, but being so genuine, you know, about it and having fun with it. Cause I think that's the key when you're either solving a niche problem or you're just genuine, you're genuinely passionate about what you do. People will buy in,
right?
People will buy in and they'll follow and they'll follow that journey. Thank you for being a part of this journey that I'm trying to see where it goes. It's Play-Doh, like any of it. Like I don't know what it will be, but I know right now, hey, I get to hang out with folks I hadn't caught up because we hadn't caught up in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's kind of one of those adulting scheduling things. Like, hey, what are you doing in the next 3 weeks? Where are you gonna? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, and that also is the theme that I'm noticing is that this is something that we would have done anyway.
Right.
Because we're not, like you said, it's not service level.
Right.
Hey, how was the weather? What is work? Okay, yeah, no, we know
yeah.
that stuff. Like, what are you fighting with?
Yeah.
What's been successful?
Totally.
So let's go find out about the menu at Busty's.
That sounds
RgL
good.
Sedan Sessions. Thank you very, very much to Eric Moreno, Native Texan. Is it Native Texan?
Native Texan Two Step.
Native Texan Two Step. Ryan, remind us again. Where can we find it?
Yep, on Instagram, Facebook. There's a page right now, but like focus on Instagram. Instagram's gonna be the sexy thing. So yeah,
absolutely. RG Lerma here with you again. Thank you, RgL Sedan Sessions conversation series from the inside of the Chevy Impala sedan. Stay tuned for more as this develops. You dig?